Join us on Faith in the Fastlife for inspiring stories of faith and action sports. Explore the exciting intersection of faith and extreme sports with top athletes and thought leaders. So grab your gear and come along for the ride as we discover the ultimate rush of faith in the fast life.
Welcome, Faith and Fastlife family. We are here for yet another episode, following up the John Parkinson episode from Supercross, and we have the Spiniken family here with us. The Waymaker Bus made their way all the way to Pueblo, Colorado. We're sitting in the office. So excited to have you guys. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we've been to the west side of Colorado, but 10%.
We have not been to this.
The southeast is the desert versus the mountains for sure. But I guess if you go far enough west, you hit more desert over there. So,
Besides of time in Grand Junction, which we are just like the other slope of.
Yeah, that's the opposite of.
It's Pueblo on the western slope.
Like to be compared to them, or
I guess it's better than the Greeley comparison. So, either way, Pueblo, Colorado, it's our home. It's where God has us, and we're able to do some cool things out of here. But man, we're just excited to have you guys here. Didn't see this coming, so super excited that you reached out on social media, and you guys are here. You came from the Dallas area. Tell us about your journey.
Well, we had been on the road for about 2 years. We left this year in November, and last year we left in December. And so we spent time in Michigan this past summer getting the bus more built out. And the original launch of our bus in December of 2021, we really didn't have anything finished on the bus. We left with just a shell, and so we really needed to come back, and that was time to rest and see family and friends again. So about 2 years we've been doing this.
So we
Love our life.
The last June through November.
Yeah.
Back in Michigan with family.
So Michigan is home then? So when you guys aren't in the bus, is there a home in Michigan? Like a brick and mortar home? Or?
No, we sold our house to do this. So we prayed about an apartment. Where we live in northern Michigan is like super competitive for homes and apartments. And so God provided an apartment for 2 months for us to go to the bus. And then we moved back in the bus. But we worked on that, which was interesting. It was
Right.
But we have family. Like if we needed somewhere to stay, they could.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Like let's go. You guys both grew up in Michigan?
So I am 3 hours south of Erin and Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so we met like 18 something. So then when we got married, I moved up to Traverse City. And so we've been there, been married 14 years myself. Feels like home.
Yeah, right. So going back to that, 3 hours apart, met at a young age, but did you grow up in church?
I did, yeah. So my grandpa's a pastor. My dad's a pastor's kid. So I got to hear about his rebellious side. I got to hear about the love of Jesus and fasting in my heart at age 6. And so I really don't remember not being a Christian, but I didn't feel like I owned it until right around the time that I met Aaron. I went through some heartache in a relationship in college, and I think it was a good wake-up call because I was wandering at that time, and so I think it was like a good reset, and like, I need to get back with the Lord and be serious in my faith. And so then I owned my faith then and got to just want biblical priorities and things like that. So, and ever since then, it's been just.
So you learned from maybe your dad as a PK, learned maybe what not to do, so it kept you away from that rebellious stuff. I had hoped that for all of my kids, but so far we'll see.
Yeah. They purposely shared stories, and I think everybody's got to work out their own faith, and it's not like I made great choices either,
Right.
Where he had to make his choices, but I didn't make awesome ones.
So since 6, made it through some heartache at a young age, and then somewhere along the way, Aaron came in. Hopefully God kind of opened that door. And tell me, how about you, Aaron? Do you grow up in faith too?
It's similar. We grew up, yeah, in a Christian family, both parents, and good family, but similar. It wasn't really lived out a whole lot, until later on. I would say right around when we met each other, it's kind of when we both started kind of digging in a little bit more.
Okay.
And right after we met each other, I signed up to go to YWAM in Australia.
You signed up before we met, and so I met him summer 2007. We have 3 months to get to know each other, and then he was gone for 6 months. So it was kind of like, it felt kind of crazy, but I think it was God's timing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's kind of cool too, though, right? Because you spend 3 months together, get to know each other, and then you have to take this break, and it's kind of that, oh, was this meant to be or not kind of thing. And obviously, it was God's plan. So how was that? How was YWAM? Was that pretty wild in Australia? Kind of cool experience?
Good experience, yeah. I've learned a lot of different things, it's the first time being away from family for 6 months. That was pretty big. After becoming an adult and learn how to do things on our own. And yeah, that's kind of what started off this journey, I think, it was a surf-focused discipleship training school.
Oh, really?
So we did a lot of surf.
So ocean surf in Australia with YWAM. Okay.
And then we did some skate stuff as well, and surf comps, skate comps, and just loving on kids in the neighborhood. And
All right.
that's kind of...
So we got a little bit of your background, like with Christ, and you were a young age, like you gave your heart to the Lord at 6, and we say that, and then we walk through some life, and at some point in time, I think we actually truly accept God in our heart. We say we do at one point, and we truly do at another point. Were you about the same age? Did you do that at a young age, or was that...
That was for a young age, probably right around, I don't know, I'd say 8.
Okay.
Probably when I got baptized. But yeah, it's a long journey.
Did you guys grow up in a certain denomination? Like, what was the background of...
My early years, I was in Lutheran church, and then probably around 7 or 8, we switched to a non-denominational.
Okay.
You were always down.
Yeah, I was non-denominational.
Always on.
Yeah.
It's just always interesting I think the listener is curious too. That we have listeners from Catholic to Lutheran to AG all over the place. So, see, school, like that's what I love so much is the relationship factor, not the religion part of it. And so, what's your relationship with Christ look like? But we've heard a little bit at a young age. Like, how about, obviously you guys are doing some action sports type ministry. You're showing up at skate parks. You're doing the thing. Like, what's your background in action sports? Like, where did that all come from? Like, did you grow up in that as well?
Yeah, so I grew up doing traditional sports, yes, soccer, and I did a little bit of volleyball and basketball, but I've always loved athletics. And so in college, I took all of my PE credits the first freshman year, and I was really bummed, but I realized maybe there's something to that. And so I, in the early years, I went to get my certification in personal training and taught Pilates and all that in my young adult life. But I grew up going to Colorado to ski, downhill skiing. When I met him, he taught me to snowboard. And then when I met him, I also learned how to wake surf. Now we love to rock climb. So we tell everybody we love just about everything. Like, we're a jack of all trades, but doesn't mean we're great.
Into the club, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Like, we're immersed in action sports, but I'm definitely not a professional at any of them. So,
Yeah.
but still enjoy it all the same, right? That's cool.
I think I was probably about 5 years old. I started snow skiing. And then in teenage years, my brother and I and my cousin, we started wakeboarding and snowboarding. That was kind of our initiation into action sports. And if we couldn't snowboard or wakeboard, we would skateboard or try to surf in the lake. And
We would surf on the Great Lakes. Did you know that?
I actually did do that. I think I heard that along the way.
Yeah, it's,
a little cold.
yeah, you can't compare it to the ocean, but it's
Short.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but fun all the same, right? Like, you should be done. It's kind of like the mountains in Ohio.
yeah. And really the county that, like Traverse City area north of that, Leelanau County is like really known for being active in Michigan. And so I just felt like it's part of the culture. And whether we're hiking or biking or, everybody's part of playing hockey, it's just, we just love it. So
hockey fans from there, did you ever play hockey too?
Not like on a team or anything, but we do pond hockey and roller hockey, and the Dismantled Growlings were actually good. And
Right when they're actually so. Do you guys are you Red Wings fans?
We were back in the day. We really don't pay much attention to.
I mean, to be watching it, like the Grand Rapids Griffins is like the local team is fun to watch, but we don't keep track of it.
Darren McCarty has done this podcast with us. So for all you listeners, if you didn't catch D-Mac on an episode, you have to scroll backwards and catch Darren McCarty on Faith in the Fastlife with us. But as in the real reason, we kind of got a little history of you guys. You met at a young age, had your separation. God brought you back together, and now you have 3 kids with the 4th on the way, and you're living out of a bus while traveling the world. How did we get here? Tell me more.
Traveling the continental U.S. I like to correct people.
I will say that you were traveling the world with the kingdom mind. You're traveling through the world.
Yes. Yeah. And really each state and each part of the state offers like different cultures. So it's been really cool to just experience different denominations and exposed to so much. But how we got here, that's like the long
process.
We're working on telling that story if you want to start.
Yeah. So I think I would say it started in 2020 with the pandemic. We had about a month that we were shut down from work. And so I spent a lot of time at home with the kids, and we just really enjoyed that time together and felt like we needed to do something different, and we didn't know what that meant at that point. So it was about a year process that that God shaped that desire with us.
I mean, just before COVID hit, he and I did a cross-country trip and traveled and loved it. We didn't have the kids with us then. And so we came home in like February 2020, like let's go back, let's take the kids, like this is so awesome. And then everything shut down. And so we just felt this longing to travel, but also be together as a family. And the spiritual side of things is also shaping. I think for me during quarantine, I just felt like this longing to be with the body. And like, it was pretty strict in Michigan, so the separation was really hard. And I just found myself, crying out to God and just worshiping him and just thinking about how, like, being united is such a beautiful thing as the body of Christ. And I just felt the Spirit preparing me for something. And, I didn't know what that was yet, but it was just like a craving, a calling that was on my heart.
Yeah, I think we started kind of getting, I don't know what you'd call it, a anxiousness in our spirit to move and do something. And one thing led to the next, and we were trying to find a new job or something that we could be more flexible and be able to spend more time as a family. And that kind of brought up the missions side of it. I brought us back. Okay.
Yeah, I think just like watching the change in Aaron. So like we knew we wanted more family time. We wanted to travel, and like the Spirit was working, but seeing the transition in Aaron's spirit was like, oh, there's something really big here, because we felt restless, but we didn't know what it was. And so we played it out in our heads like a million different ways of different things we can do. And he did apply for a different job in that. And, that ended up being a closed door. And to us, we were kind of frustrated, like, this makes sense on paper. Why wouldn't we do this?
Well, with that job, it was going to allow us a little bit more time to have family time and start up some ministry stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when that got shut down, we're kind of like, what does that mean now? What are we supposed to do?
Right. So what were you doing like pre-COVID? What was the job that you were doing that you quit?
I was
Where that you got shut down?
working at a boat dealership. I was a marine technician and fiberglass bodywork guy. So that was kind of a little bit of more of our backstory, how we kind of felt like we were brought back into the action sports world. Because I had that job for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Before that, we grew up on cherry and apple farm, so farming was deep in our roots. And
Right.
Your family.
Yeah.
So then COVID hits, you get laid off from the Mastercraft dealership, right? And so what was the job that you thought was going to be the open door?
that was going to be a farm job as well, manage a farm that had time off in the winter. And
So you could go do ministry in the winter and travel in the winter, but hustle all summer long. And so when God shut that door, you were frustrated, but then what?
Yeah. So in that, I think we spent another treasure. Yeah. I mean,
he is guiding us here somewhere.
we
Right.
started, I think, to get more serious, like seeking. We started praying and fasting, and I felt like the Lord told me 3 things: of sell the house, buy the bus, and have Aaron quit his jobs. It's that he had 2 side jobs, and as well as this boat job, and so it didn't make sense. Like, okay, realistically, we would keep the job and the house and get the bus and remodel the house. Then we would,
Right.
But-
You do it your way.
yeah,
Yeah. If I lay it out, the way of the world, if I lay it out the way I want it to work.
yeah. And God doesn't work logically to us.
Not with our logic.
No.
Yeah.
And so, in that image, I felt like there's an image of an anchor, and he just showed like how the anchor has chains, different chains that are connected to it, and they were being released, and it was being set free in a way, like you're being released from this area, or this life, this season. And so, seeing the change in inherent spirit about the skate ministry, skate community was a huge.
Yeah, it just came to a point where I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and it actually was distracting me from work. I was just consuming my thoughts of doing this ministry, and so we got to do something about this.
Yeah. When he called me from work, like, I don't know, it was the middle of the day. And normally I have to text him multiple times to get a response because he was like in the boats and like messing with the Indians and all that. And so to get a response from him was a big deal. But then he called me in the middle of the day and he was like really emotional. And I was like, what's going on? And he said that he just could not stop thinking about the skate community, and the Holy Spirit was just laying on him big time. And so it was like, that was a wake up call for me. Like, oh, this is serious.
And this is before or after COVID now?
This is after.
So you got laid off for the brief period of time, but now you've got back to work. But God's still kind of pushing this issue. The Holy Spirit's got it on your heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was bring up 21.
Yeah.
The timeline gets a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
I trust me, we understand.
We went and started looking at options and bought a school bus.
And you were in communication with your boss a little bit.
We started talking with my boss that there were teachings coming down the pipeline, and we didn't know what it looked like, but we bought the bus, and then I felt God saying, well, it's time to quit work, get to full time on renovating the bus thing. So
And sell the house,
put in 2 weeks, and we spent about a month.
fixing up the house. I mean, the market was super hot then. Like, I think
Which is good, and that's a huge plus.
so. I think the timeline was. I understood why God was saying no for selling the house. Like, as much as I wanted to, like, let's just put it on Airbnb. Like, we can just rent it. Like, why do we have to get rid of it? But
That Nick could manage
no,
all of that.
financially, no, and just mentally too.
Right.
I knew I was trying to be like find my own way, but God was very gracious, and he never like stopped being clear about sell the house. But I felt like he gave me that time to wrestle with it.
Right.
And he really blessed us through that time. Quitting the job first was seemed totally backwards. Should sell the house and get the profits so that we live off of that before I quit. I quit, and he provided for us until the profit came in from the house. And
Yeah, he has like back pay that checks just.
I didn't even realize that
Yeah.
there was some commission back pay that I had that paid for all our time in between the house sale. And
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But we backtracked though, because in the spring, like when we were still trying to formulate, like, what is a skate change ministry? What does that look like? We got connected with Melanie in Battle Creek, Michigan, who does a skate ministry. She's a director of Battleground Skate House, and we got connected with her, who connected us with the Grind Skate Conference, and that kind of opened up our whole world for
so
skate
we
ministry.
just went to the skate conference in September 21, and that was just, we didn't know what to expect. We were quite nervous showing up as old people. Adults skate very well.
But no, I didn't know.
These guys are really good.
Yeah.
So we're professional,
Right.
So we were pretty intimidated, but they just welcomed us and it just felt like family instantly. And
They're incredible.
Cool.
all of a sudden you have family all across the whole country and even a couple other countries.
Yeah.
So great connector, and really just launched us.
Right. That's awesome. So you go to the Grind Skate Conference, get the bus. How old were the kids when you guys first started?
Moving 4, 6, and 8, I think. So
You've been on the road for 2 years now?
This is
So tell us, what does it look like? Like, you guys leave Michigan, rolling down the road. What's the plan? Where are you going? Where do you head? How do you decide where to go next? Tell us those inner workings.
I think that
20.
the first
Yeah, let's start at first. Like,
the first launch, we kind of didn't know what we were doing, so we kind of were waiting for God to call us to a specific thing, and we just said, I think we need to just get out on the road. And we called up Judd Heald, and he said, yeah, I got a project going on. He come about it, help out.
Yeah, he was expanding his indoor park, and he's in St. Joe, Missouri.
Yeah, we went to Missouri and spent a few days with him and helped lay the foundation for expansion of his training facility, and the doors just kind of started opening up from there, I think.
Yeah. So I joined D Group, which is a discipleship, like online Bible study with women, and there's men skirts too, but it was 2018 when I joined, and I am still part of it. And so these women are a part of the group, but they're all over the U.S. as well. And so thankfully they've been with me through this whole journey and haven't told us we were crazy. And so when I said, that we were going to go to Missouri, there was a gal who lived in Missouri and said, actually, the next 3 weeks we're going to be in Florida and her house is empty. Did you guys want to stay there? Because they knew the bus wasn't done. And so it was just kind of a cool, we said yes to going, and God helped us.
The procedures are yes to go help out Judd. I mean, we left and we'd had a bus without feds. It was just a construction mess. And then we're able to get blessed with staying in that house, and we're able to build a few things in the bus before we got farther down the road.
Right. So you just went. So the first stop is Judd's house. Up with the project. Where'd you go from there?
Kind of worked our way southwest. I mean, we went to Oklahoma and Texas, but in that area, we were thinking skate ministry. So in Oklahoma, we went to Forgiven Skate Church, and there was another family that we met at the Grind, so we connected with them. They're helping to start a skate ministry in Norman, of Oklahoma. And then Texas, there was a family that we knew that we were visiting.
An old family friend from back home that moved to Texas. They invited us to stay at their church. They had a nice parking lot that we were able to stay for a few more weeks and get some more work done in the bus before we headed farther west.
We went to a few skate parks there, and we met some people and got to connect with them, and then we share the gospel. And this time around, it was a really cool story, because we went to that same church in the same area south of Dallas, and that whole thing was crazy these last few weeks this season. But Dallas has a lot of cool skate parks, and I think God's doing some big stuff there. So Yeah.
Good. It's awesome.
I wonder if we were established there last year, so we would come back and do the work that we did this year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that felt like last year's trip was kind of getting established and making the connections and
Yeah.
Getting our vision.
kind of getting places that we know are safe, comfortable to be able to park, and getting our bases set across the country. So we've been able to now go back and revisit some of those.
Right.
It's been really, really beneficial.
Yeah. So you've been back to Toy Story. So how about on this trip? Like when you took off on this one, where did you start out?
Because the last trip we went farther west, and then we went all the way to the East Coast and down to Florida, and then back home. So then this year we went down to Florida. Was our first.
No, we went to Southern Michigan. Don't forget about it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had to go through a little east.
We have family, and then the skate menageries, and there's Malchus, and then there's the Battleground Skate House. And so we had some really great time with them. The director, Melanie, that I mentioned earlier, we were able to help her with some projects at her house. And really our heart is just like, wherever you need us, Lord, connected with the skate community, how can we love and serve the already established communities? Give them encouragement, give them connections, give them affirmation, and just bless them, like whether it's a construction project or making a meal or fellowshipping or just praying over them, just encouraging them, because I think a lot of times in ministry, there's a lot that's unseen and there's a lot of burnout. And so
Yeah,
it looks a little different everywhere we go. So it's kind of,
it got worked. Yeah, our clientele this year and so we spent about a month down in Florida with Ride Nature, and we're able to help with the hurricane relief.
Oh, yeah.
They had a intern house that had gotten flooded that just before we got there, they started demolishing it, and we got there and were able to help rebuild it for about 3 weeks.
the month that Jeanette off, they worked on it. It was pretty intense, but it was perfect timing. And we felt like that happens quite a bit. Like we show up and we're just kind of like, hey, we're here. We don't really have a full picture of what we're doing, but then kind of like God puts it all together, and
Right.
there's purpose in our being there, so it was cool to see that. And
So what would you say, like, your guys' is like, I mean, what is your, if we had to think business terms, like, what is your mission statement? I mean, obviously the name, the Waymaker Bus, which I'd love to hear the story about how that came to be. Obviously we know Jesus is the Waymaker, but, like, what is it? I mean, it's called Escape Ministry, but like, what would you say, what's the thing that you do? I know God opens it and may change it every time, but what in that original vision, what was it? We're going to go do this.
Vision was to be available. I think an easy way to describe it would be that we're missionaries to the ministries in the local cities, giving rest and encouragement for maybe,
Sort of come in and help make the way.
and make connections.
yeah, that's not one of my favorite things. Like the family that we met in Dallas this season. I don't know if we have time to tell the whole story, but our bus was in the shop and we were stuck, quote unquote, and it was a whole fiasco with the shop. I won't go into that, but during that time we kind of toured the skate parks, and we ended up meeting this family with 3 kids. And the first day that we saw them, they didn't seem like super wanting to talk, and that's okay. Like you get something different at every park, but
I don't think we were ready to talk to people that much either.
yeah, I mean, we talked to the younger girl and gave her a sticker and stuff. But the funny thing was, the next day we went to another park, and there they were again. And so it just kind of seemed like it's a middle of the week day. These kids probably homeschooled. Like,
Yeah, we start talking to them, and they homeschooled as well, and they were driving from an hour and 20 minutes away in the skate park, so it wasn't normal that they would be at both the same skate parks that we were at.
yeah.
God kind of led us together, and
Yeah, the night before, so the dad, his Mark, and he was looking at his phone, trying to figure out what park to go to. because they like to reach out to kids too, like, hey, do you need anything, and share about Jesus. And so he just felt compelled that he was supposed to go to this park. And so it was just kind of a cool, like, that was totally God, divine appointment, you know. And so in that, we were able to share with them about the skate community and the grind conference. Like, they had no idea that they were just out there doing it, doing their thing, going to parks, reaching out to kids, loving on kids, being available to the Lord. And it was so cool to tell them, like, dude, you're not alone. Like, there's a whole community of people doing the same thing. And we want to stand behind you. We want to support you. And he just put his submission in for a grant to put an indoor park at his local community. And so it was just a really cool, like, we want to pray for that. We want to see that happen. And it's actually called The Grind. That's what he put for the name for the indoor park. So yeah, it just seemed like a cool God connection, and they were really thankful to be connected in that way. There's a lot more to the story about just what they've been through, but.
So tell me how the name the Waymaker Bus came about. It's got to be a good story.
Yeah, I felt like there was like a couple of things that kind of worked itself out, but so Melanie, the one that we mentioned earlier about being our first connection to the skate community, she came over the summer that we were trying to figure everything out. She was up north in our area, and she came over for a bonfire and really just sat with us and talked with us, and she was just so loving and present and kind, and available for us to ask questions. And she's like, you really should come to this conference, and we're still hesitating. And when she prayed over us, she prayed Isaiah 30:21. And at the time, I kind of heard it, but the kids were running around crazy and being loud. And so that kind of, I felt like, planted a seed. And then one day we were listening to the worship song that came out by Christopher. They sang the Waymaker song.
It was a different song, a video that I was watching that he mentioned Waymaker. That just stuck in my head, and I said, I think we want to go with that.
Yeah.
So we were praying about it. We were set on it. It was right after the closing of our house, I think, right?
Probably.
When we show up at church on Sunday, and first song they sing is Waymaker. And
our adults just bawling and like, this is it. Yeah.
And, going through the whole selling that house is a stressful thing.
Very
stressful. So we were just really having a hard time with that. And
yeah.
When we heard that song, it just felt peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
We felt that the family that was going to own our house was going to be the right family. And
yeah.
Turns out that they're also a Christian family. And
yeah, that whole thing is so cool about our house. Like, it's such a God.
Very cool how she fell out.
Mm-hmm.
Made the way. For the listeners right now, I just want you to think about this for a minute. Like, you have your home base set up, you have a job, you have 3 kids, you have a routine, you have everything going exactly as it's supposed to be, and you feel a stirring in your heart. Are you going to listen to it? Are you paying attention to it? Are you truly being still enough to hear what God's telling you? Or are you taking time to fast? Are you taking time to really hit your knees in prayer and plead with God and say, hey, what is this stirring? Where are we going? And then you choose to do it. Like, not too many Christians, not too many people, I don't think, make the leap that you guys have made. And I think it's awesome. I think it's great what you guys are doing. But I want the listeners to sit in that for a minute. Think about it. God says it's time for you to go. Are you going? Are you truly obedient to what he's calling on your life? Are you slowing down enough to hear him? That's my big thing, right? Fastlife Ministries. Like, am I taking enough time to slow down and truly hear what God's telling me? Or am I just jumping? So, but I think it's awesome what you guys do. It's great. The journey is so cool. How can, our listeners, how can they follow you guys? Like, what's the, social medias and all those things? Tell them how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, for Waymaker, it's at Waymaker_bus. We do a lot of updates there. And then we each have our own personal Facebook.
Yeah, and we got links on there to the blog, John.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah. If they want to partner with us too, the Venmo of Aaron's Venmo is on, I think, the Instagram bio. And then we have a blog too, which I can give you the information for that as a password and stuff. So honestly, we're not great at updating any of them. We try, and we're not great at keeping up with our family and our friends. So it's just crazy. And honestly, I was sharing with a friend, like, it talks about in scripture, I think in John, where it says Jesus did all of these miracles, but there's so much that you couldn't even fill, like, a full Bible with all the things Jesus did while he was here on earth. I forget the scripture. I'm bad with that, but it kind of reminded me of, like, there's so much that we've seen God do and see him provide and seen the ways that he's faithful and how he's shown up and how he's loved us. And, like, we just can't even write it all down. So we try to hang on to the big things and share what we can. But
Well, I encourage all the listeners to, follow the journey, good or not, but get a hold of it. Are you guys 501c3 or they're
no, not yet.
Yeah. Working on that.
Praying on what direction before to partner with ministry or get our own 501c3.
Yeah.
Which I keep praying for that.
Well, listeners, let's help them pray for that and go from there, guys. One of the things I always do at the end of these podcasts is if there's one thing that you want the listeners to grab a hold of, what's just one thing that you want to leave them with?
That's a tough one. And then you tell us on the spot. No,
It's always like that.
Yeah.
I always put you on the spot with something.
I would say just kind of what you were saying, like one of the verses that really spoke to me in being on this journey was when he spoke to Abraham. This is in Genesis, like, leave your father and mother and go to the land that I tell you, and do it, because he is faithful and he follows through every time. And, he's, like that song says, that he's not going to fail and he's not going to start now, and so it's not easy. We've run into so many bumps in the road, trust me, and challenges, but the refinement and the fruit from that, and seeing the fruit from the community we've met and our marriage, and it's worth it. It really is worth it.
Yeah.
I think I would say to anyone that, having those feelings of a stirring in their heart, lean into that, step into it, and step out in faith, and take a chance. God will correct your ways if you're not on the right path. He'll show you.
All right.
But you got to make that step.
Let him be the Lord of your life. Right?
Not perfection.
Oh, no. We all make mistakes. I think the Abraham's a good verse. Like I've done a sermon on that not too long ago, but for the listeners who are familiar with that, again, like it was before he was Abraham, he was Abram, and he was very well to do. He would have been considered rich in his homeland. Flocks of sheep and cattle and all of the things that basically meant he was a millionaire living on top of the hill. And God said, "Go to this land." And he listened just like you guys did. So
I wonder, like, is it Sari? What was she and Sarah at that point? Like, what was that conversation like?
right. Yeah. Hey, by the way, we're leaving all this behind, and we're going over to the desert where there's nothing, but God's got our back, right? How many of us today go, "Oh yeah, okay, no problem, sounds good"? But that's why sometimes things are good things, but they're not necessarily God things. So let's make sure it's a God thing. But guys, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. For all the listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following these guys at the Waymaker Bus, Waymaker_bus. Like this, share it, comment on it, do all those things to help us continue to share these testimonies and stories with other people. But for all the listeners, catch us on the next one. God bless. Have an amazing day. Thanks.